On night 2 of the last Democratic debate, the standout moment for me, unquestionably, was when Tulsi Gabbard went after Kamala Harris's criminal justice record. It was absolutely amazing, and it's why I think overall she won that debate, in part thanks to her strength there. Now, after a week, that's what we're all still talking about because it was such a glorious moment. And there's evidence that Kamala may actually be taking a dip in the polls. You know, we don't know yet, so we don't want to make any definitive statements because we want to see multiple polls before determining whether or not this hurt her. But all signs point to Kamala came out damaged here. Now, one thing that bothered me was that after Tulsi Gabbard made that powerful point, brought up a lot of red flags with Kamala's record, Kamala didn't actually respond in any meaningful way. She didn't address the factual points that Tulsi Gabbard brought up. Instead, what she chose to do was smear Tulsi Gabbard as an Assad apologist. And it's clear that she was doing this because she wanted to distract people from her own record and try to get people to think that Tulsi was actually the bad guy. And, you know, nobody's surprised by this, but it's unfortunate. It seemed to have worked because the media focused on Tulsi and not on Kamala.
Congresswoman, do you not believe that the same could be said for your meeting with Bashar al-Assad?
I don't know how you could equate that. We're talking about a president that is directly...
That you would be meeting with the leader of Syria who could feasibly be responsible for the killings of over 500,000 people.
You need to acknowledge that Bashar al-Assad is a murderous despot.
If voters are wondering, what is your take on Bashar al-Assad? What do you say?
So rather than holding Kamala Harris's feet to the fire, rather than talking about her criminal justice record, I mean, they shoot the messenger. They smear Tulsi as an Assad apologist. This is all that the media focuses on. And it's clear that her intentions were pure. She went to Syria because she wanted to foster peace between the United States and Syria. And it's just really, it's heartbreaking to see them be so disingenuous and give Kamala a pass when Tulsi brought up a lot of valid criticisms with Kamala's record. Now, Kyle Kulinski did a fantastic 20-plus minute long video breaking this down and why it really is egregious. And, you know, he said pretty much everything that I wanted to say, but better. So I'll link you to that video and encourage you to watch it. Now, another highlight of the debate with Tulsi Gabbard was when she brought up how a fatal flaw with Kamala Harris's pseudo Medicare for All plan was that, you know, it was being championed by Kathleen Sebelius, who works in the Medicare Advantage industry. And that got less attention, but it was also really great. Now, Tulsi Gabbard was also asked about her stance on private insurance, and this didn't get as much attention because most people who were so disgusted by the smears of Tulsi Gabbard as an Assad apologist were focused more on that. But something Tulsi Gabbard said in this interview that kind of blew up afterwards, it actually did give progressives pause, progressives such as myself, because she said something about private insurance that was a little bit worrying to me. And I almost hesitate to bring this up because I don't want to pile on. Like, it's frustrating. I get why there are so many people who are hypersensitive to any and all criticisms of Tulsi Gabbard. It's because she is oftentimes the target of bad faith smears. However, with that being said, there's so many people who support Tulsi Gabbard who watch this show that I still feel as if, you know, if there's an area of opportunity, I have to bring it up. I have to address it. And, you know, people need to be able to decide for themselves whether or not there's room for growth. And I absolutely think that what Tulsi says in this interview, which I didn't see until it kind of blew up online, it really gave me pause, and I didn't like what she had to say. So we're going to watch it, and then I'll let you decide for yourself, but then I'm going to tell you why I absolutely take issue with what Tulsi Gabbard said here.
In terms of healthcare, where are you on the spectrum of, you know...
We've been hearing a lot about that.
Yes, Medicare for all,
Yeah.
or you know, improve Obamacare.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Well, first, let me just say our objective has to and must be making sure that no person, no American who is sick in this country should go without care because they can't afford it. That's why I have been and continue to be a supporter for Medicare for all that would guarantee that health care, that quality health care for every single American in this country. I also believe, like every other developed country in the world that has universal health care, that there is a role for private insurance to play for those who want it.
Do you think for those who are embracing taking away private insurance from people ultimately, is that just strategically, politically a non-starter?
I don't know about the politics of it. I just think about it from the perspective of people, of the American people, that if all of a sudden you are taking away their choice, that's not a very American thing, in my opinion. I think our responsibility as leaders is to meet the challenge and address the problems that people are facing, that they are suffering because of big insurance and big pharma's influence over our healthcare system for so long, how they are profiting on the backs of sick people. So let's do our job, try to bring down the cost of healthcare in this country that's exorbitant, make sure people can get the quality care they need, and if they still choose that that's not what they want, they can go get the private insurance.
Okay, so let me be clear. In no way do I think that was anywhere near as bad as Warren's "there are many paths to Medicare for all" line, but it still was deeply, deeply disappointing. Because Tulsi Gabbard was one of two candidates who I really felt like they hadn't wavered on Medicare for all. And I don't know that she's wavering here. I think that really we need more clarification. But what she said there absolutely worried me, because I want someone who's going to get in there and just crack skulls and make these private insurance companies deathly afraid. But that's not what we got there. So we'll talk about the good thing. First, she affirmed support for Medicare for all. But then she says, I also believe, like every other developed country in the world that has universal healthcare, that there is a role for private insurance to play for those who want it. Now, that's true. There is private insurance in other countries. So, for example, the UK, they have a national health system, right? That means publicly ran hospitals. But still, there's about a 10% private market in the UK. So that's true. But the difference is that when you're going into negotiations and you have a strong Medicare for all bill that leaves no room for any private insurance, you don't want to vocalize this. Like, you don't want to broadcast to the health insurance industry that there's going to be some kind of a role for them. Because if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. Because when you say, no, there should be some role since there's a role in other countries, they're going to say, oh, perfect. Well, how big do you think that role should be, Tulsi? Should it be this big? Maybe it should be this big. We think it should be this big, though. Like, that's what you open the door to. So going into negotiations, you need to start at the strongest possible position. And you say, no private insurance. Now, as Bernie Sanders and Pramila Jayapal's bill stands, it bans duplicative coverage, but offers comprehensive care. So if you do both of those things at the same time, then what are you leaving for private insurance companies? Basically nothing. So as the bill stands now, it's going to wipe them out and virtually get rid of them. We are regulating them out of existence. Now, will everything in the bill currently stay if it's codified into law? Probably not. I'm sure it will be watered down to an extent, but you don't want to start to pre-negotiate like Obama did. Like, Obama tried to do that with the Affordable Care Act, and what happened? We didn't even get a public option. He pre-negotiated because he thought he could get Republicans on board by not proposing a public option, and he got 0 Republicans. So you want to make sure that you close the door on that and let these private insurance companies know that they need to fear you because you are coming after them and you are an existential threat. Now, look, I know that Tulsi Gabbard knows about how corrosive this for-profit motive is because she called out that for-profit motive at that debate. You know, she talked about how Kamala's bill was bad because it was endorsed by Kathleen Sebelius, who was part of the, Medicare Advantage vulture, supplement healthcare industry. It's just awful. It's a ripoff. So, I'm not going to be too down on Tulsi there because she has been consistent in denouncing for-profit motives here with regard to healthcare and calling out that, for-profit motive. That being said, though, this is where we get into really, really dangerous territory. I just think about this from the perspective of the people, the American people, that if all of a sudden you are taking away their choice, that's not a very American thing, in my opinion. Oof. She later says, and if they still choose that's not what they want, assuming she's talking about Medicare for all, if it gets passed, they can go get private insurance they need. Okay. That does not sound like Medicare for all to me. That sounds like a public option. And by saying that Medicare for all, in only having that and not allowing private is, quote, taking away choice, that is a horrible thing that a proponent of Medicare for all could say. Because that's not real choice. That's the illusion of choice. Because the choice that we want isn't between public and private insurance. The choice that we want is to be able to see whatever doctor we want, go to whatever hospital we want. So when you're talking about healthcare, that's not the real choice. Nobody's upset because there's no choice between public and private firefighters. The choice comes in at allowing us to make healthcare decisions. And we make those healthcare decisions. We are empowered to do what we need to do, see the doctors we want, when we have comprehensive universal coverage. So I absolutely do not like that she said that. And when she said they can go get private if they want to, they can't though. They cannot do that because Section 107A bans duplicative coverage. That means that all of the services that will be provided under Medicare for All cannot be offered by private insurance companies. So if you, for example, don't like Medicare for All, everyone's going to like it, but if you don't like it, you can't say, you know what, I'm going to pay for supplemental because I just don't think that my doctor is removing my infested toenail fast enough, so I want to get supplemental because I think that this procedure should be done faster. That's not the way that it's going to work, because the point is to have everyone on the same plan to ensure that we have quality healthcare for everyone. Rich people and poor people have the same plan, and we're not allowing rich people to pay more in order to jump to the front of the line. So we ban duplicative care to make sure that our Medicare for All system doesn't turn into a two-tiered healthcare system. Now, Tulsi Gabbard brought up the duplicative ban before. She did this at her first CNN town hall, so I know that she's aware of it. But for whatever reason here, I know that she had a limited amount of time to answer. She made it seem as if there was no duplicative ban, that you could just get whatever insurance you want, private or public. But the goal is to get rid of private insurance. Again, Section 107A bans duplicative coverage. Now, if you read the bill and you go to Section 107B, it says nothing in this bill shall be construed as banning private insurance. Now, that's true. It doesn't outright ban private insurance, only duplicative coverage. But you don't need to do that to reach the same goal, right? I mean, you're regulating them out of existence by banning duplicative care and by also offering comprehensive coverage. So if you cover everything and you say private companies can't cover what's already covered in Medicare for All, you're leaving little to no room for them. And I did a really long, comprehensive video about this, and I just re-released a shorter version of that where I talk about this, where I talk about what's in the bill. And, this is a good thing. We want to make sure that we make that role for private insurance non-existent. We want them to go out of business. And sure, we want a just transition so people working in the healthcare industry, they don't lose their jobs and have nothing. We want to help these people. So we want a just transition. We're not trying to hurt people. We're trying to help people. But the goal is to get rid of private insurance companies. That's what Medicare for All is designed to do. And nobody's talking about banning all private insurance. It can still exist. So technically, if there's something that Medicare for All leaves out, sure, a private insurance company can offer coverage for that, but the goal shouldn't be, okay, well, here you go, private company. This is one of the gaps in Medicare for All, so I'll let you take it from here. No, the goal should be, well, we improve Medicare for All so it's better. I mean, think about this. Medicare currently, as it stands, when you turn 65, you qualify for Medicare. However, there are gaps that have not been closed, and what happened? Insurance vultures, like Medicare Advantage companies, Kathleen Sebelius is part of that, they come in and they offer supplemental insurance. And people hate it. My mom just turned 65, and the other day she was telling me, I fucking hate Medicare Advantage. I hate it. I'm supposed to have Medicare. I'm supposed to have free healthcare now. Why am I still paying copays and deductibles? So the goal is to make it so that way we're not allowing this type of situation where these Medicare Advantage type of vultures can water down our Medicare for All system. We don't want a two-tiered Medicare or healthcare system. So it really pains me to see someone who's been a longtime advocate for Medicare for All suggest that if we eliminate that private insurance option, we're somehow taking away choice. That is completely a misrepresentation of what Medicare for All does. And really, if she's a true advocate for Medicare for All, I want her to be strong. You start off strong and you negotiate when you start talking about passing the bill, not now when you're telling them, I think there should be some role. No, there should be no role. Certain industries don't need that profit motive. In fact, the profit motive is detrimental, right? Because that creates a conflict of interest. If you put profit and incentivize profits in the healthcare industry, then that changes what healthcare means in America. People care more about profits. Industries care more about making money than serving people, than the delivery of healthcare. That's why we need to get private insurance out of our healthcare system. It's essential. Now, understand that I'm handling this with kid gloves because I get why people are hypersensitive to criticisms of Tulsi Gabbard. But let me say this. I like Tulsi Gabbard. So when I see her say something that I disagree with, this doesn't mean that I'm trying to smear her. This doesn't mean that I'm trying to, tear her down at the behest of Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. That's not what this is about. And we need to be adults and fight past the cognitive dissonance. Okay? Not every candidate is perfect. I've criticized Bernie on numerous occasions. I criticized him because he didn't speak out on Julian Assange's behalf, and I gave Tulsi Gabbard credit for speaking out. I criticized Bernie on reparations, on BDS. I criticized Bernie Sanders on Venezuela. We have to be able to acknowledge that every single politician will sometimes mess up, but that doesn't mean that we change our positions in order to align with the candidate that we support. That means that no, if a candidate kind of gets off course, we steer them back in the right direction because they are the ones who answer to us, not the other way around. So I understand that I'm going to get scolded for daring to criticize Tulsi Gabbard here. And if you disagree with my interpretation, that's fine. But as someone who is passionate about Medicare for All, as someone who has this as his number one issue, I care deeply about the details. And I want to make sure that whenever one of the candidates who I support talks about Medicare for All, they hit all the points that they need to hit because we need the most robust healthcare system in the world, and that's what Medicare for All is going to do. We're not just trying to reach parity with Canada or the UK. I mean, sure, they're doing better than us now, but why are we just stopping there? We're trying to be a leader on healthcare because we can. We're the richest country on the planet. So there's no reason for us to water down our bill in order to preserve some type of role for private insurance companies. I mean, Adam Gaffney put it best. You don't want to allow for private insurance because if you do that, you have to carve out a space for them, which means you're watering down your own Medicare for All bill. So when I criticize Tulsi, I do it from a place of love. I do it as someone who supports her. So if you interpret that as a smear, some probably will, that's fine. But understand that if you truly support a candidate and you support Medicare for All and you want that candidate to do better, then you need to challenge them. Challenge them and make them do better. That's what this is about. And to be clear, I wouldn't say that this is her like backing away from Medicare for All because she said she supports Medicare for All. And look, she had about a minute to respond and then the conversation changed to the Assad smear, right? So I get it. You don't have a lot of time on these mainstream news outlets, but Tulsi absolutely, if she loves her progressive supporters, should clarify here and let us know where she stands when it comes to this issue. Because we called out Warren when she waffled on Medicare for All, and she waffled way, way more than Tulsi Gabbard. But guess what happened? After a lot of criticism, after months of us criticizing Warren, now she's saying the right things about Medicare for All. So it's not like I'm saying, okay, you know what, throw Tulsi Gabbard in the garbage, she's done here. I'm not saying that. And anyone who says that I am saying that, they're being disingenuous and they're just standing. But what I am saying is, if a candidate does something that you disagree with, challenge them to do better. Because you don't have to align your view with the candidate that you support. They have to align to what you want because they represent you. It's not the other way around. And I'll leave that there. I just want Tulsi to do better. I want her to clarify her stance here because I want someone who's going to fight for Medicare for All that says, you know what, fuck these private insurance companies. You're all going to be gone. You will go out of business if I am elected. Go ahead and lobby against me. Bankroll my opponents because you know what, I have the people on my side. That's what I want to hear. And it's that simple. You can disagree with me. You can suggest that maybe I'm misinterpreting what Tulsi Gabbard is saying, but don't say that I'm trying to smear her because this comes from a good place, right? This is not me saying, oh, she's an Assad apologist because I don't want to address the merits of a particular argument she's making. This is me saying specifically, I want to see improvement with regard to this issue and this one minute detail of a very important issue. That's it. I'll leave that there.